Many of you may have seen this video already, but you haven't seen my take on it. I'm going to show you everything that this officer screwed up. And we're going to start right off the bat. So this is a consensual contact. There's a man walking down the street with his family. Police officer drives by and waves at him, trying to be friendly. Nothing wrong with that. It's community policing. Let's be nice to people, right? Well, I mean, if you're not nice back, what happens? Well, you get charged with disorderly conduct. So what happens is the officer waves at this guy. This guy is walking his dog and he holds his hands up and waves back. Well, he's got a leash in his hand, and part of the leash is sticking up, so you know what it looks like, right? But the guy tells the cop, he says, "Nah, I just wave with the leash in my hand." But then he tells him, this cop, he says, "Even if I did, it's protected free speech." Well, let's see how protected free speech goes over right here. And I want you to notice right off the bat, this officer is so upset that the first thing he does to go make this consensual contact is he runs a stop sign. Pay attention.
What's up, man? Hey, it's cool. It's cool. You can record me because I'm recording you too. All right. Next time I wave at you, man, you can wave with all your hands, man, all your fingers instead of just your middle finger.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, that one.
That's freedom of speech, dude.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you continue, man, and you want to act like this, I'll just take you to jail for disorderly conduct, persistent disorderly conduct.
I believe this.
So continue to walk and don't say a word. Don't say a word. I'm gonna take you to jail if you continue. Continue walking.
You want another civil suit on your hands, motherfucker? You better
Continue
go.
walking.
You want your sergeant down here right now.
Continue walking.
Call your sergeant.
Continue walking.
Call your motherfucking sergeant.
4200, send me another unit down there.
Sitting here with my kid and my fucking wife, and you're just gonna sit here and harass me like this.
I waved at you. I simply waved at you.
And I went like this.
I'm at Clan West.
Couldn't even hold my hand up.
Look, all I did was I waved at you as a nice gesture to you and your wife as you were walking. Okay? And then you turn around and flip me off.
Your point?
Okay? So I stopped to ask you what your problem is.
Is that a crime?
It's disorderly conduct.
It is not.
It is.
Did I offend you in
Yeah,
some
there's
way?
other people walking around. Look at these people, these kids.
Okay, so let's start at the top here. The officer is wrong. Police officers cannot be the victim in a disorderly conduct case because the Supreme Court has ruled that public servants cannot be provoked to violence by free speech. Now, it's different if you're doing it in front of somebody else and he has another complainant. So if one of those other people that he's pointing to came over and complained to him, "Hey, that guy was flipping the bird and it offended me, and I blah 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 blah." That's one thing. But he doesn't have a complainant. Now, we've seen him in the past go out and search for complainants, but that's not the case here. This citizen is correct. He has the right to provocative speech to the police officer, so long as A, he is not threatening the officer with violence or harm. Okay? Or B, he's not threatening to harm somebody else. Alright? F the police, flipping off the police, all of that is perfectly lawful, freedom of speech, First Amendment protected activity. A lot of people don't agree with it. Myself personally, I don't agree with it. However, that doesn't make it illegal. And this officer should have just kept going. But you see, he can't take his ego out of the equation. And as we always see, that always leads to trouble. So this guy has asked for a supervisor, and if the officer tells the truth when the supervisor gets there, and I'll tell you the supervisor's coming and the chief of police, if the officer were to tell the truth when they get there, surely the supervisors know better, right? They know that that's protected free speech, right? Let's go see.
And then you turn around and flip me off.
Your point?
Okay? So I stopped to ask you what your problem is.
Is that a crime?
It's disorderly conduct.
It is not.
It is.
Did I offend you in
Yeah,
some
there's
way?
other people walking around. Look at these people, these kids.
These kids that are seeing you yell at me?
Yeah, because I
Dude,
simply
get out of
stopped.
my face.
No, you're not free to leave. You're not free to go. You're gonna stay right here. As a matter of fact, will you take the dog, please?
No,
Will you take the dog?
I'm not sure. He didn't radio out with anybody.
Come on with a disturbance. Okay.
Are you serious, dude?
Yep. Go ahead. You're not under arrest. You're being detained because you're acting hostile towards me.
Here,
You want
report
another?
me.
You want another unit down here, so I'm gonna send you another unit. My chief's actually gonna come down
I'd
here.
like you to know my lawyer will be being called right after this.
Okay.
My family attorney.
All right.
will be being
You're not
called.
under arrest. Okay.
I am
But
being detained.
You
right
you
now.
are being detained.
That means I am
Yep.
under arrest.
No, you're not.
I asked
There-
the
there's
crime
two.
I committed.
There's two different things.
I
Okay.
asked the crime I committed.
Come on over here.
Don't touch me, sir, please.
Okay. Well,
You say I'm not under arrest?
you're detained.
Hey, this dude's illegally arresting me right now.
You're not under
Walking
arrest.
with my kid,
You're not under arrest.
walking with my dog, and he is arresting me.
No.
Because I was walking with my dog.
You're not under arrest, man.
Swear to God, have nothing on me or nothing.
You're not under arrest.
I'm really getting put in the back of your car,
Fortunately, I got
sir.
one detained.
Well, the officer did get one thing right. There is a difference between being detained and being arrested. There is also case law that creates a situation called a de facto arrest. So when you're detained, it's for investigative purposes. They're trying to figure out what to charge you with, if there's anything. And the courts have ruled that they can do that. They can play that cat and mouse game for about 20 minutes, more or less. But, you know, what's this officer doing? He's putting in, he says, he calls on the radio and says, I'm out on a disturbance. There was no disturbance until the officer got there. The officer is the one creating the disturbance. And yet the citizen is the one that gets put in handcuffs because he's hostile. The officer was the one that was being hostile initially. Why aren't we putting him in handcuffs? Doesn't work like that, but it's unfortunate that it doesn't. All right, so this guy is now detained, and the officer is going to secure him in the back of the patrol vehicle for everybody's safety. All right, so here comes the supervisor. Let's see what the supervisor says.
Getting arrested here for nothing. My girl and my dog are over here.
You're not under arrest.
Why do I have
told you that
handcuffs on me then?
Because
Huh?
you're being detained. Because you're refusing to identify yourself.
You never asked me to identify me.
I did.
Your camera's on, ain't it?
Yep.
My camera's on.
You said
Everybody's
you're not-
camera's on.
you're-
When did you say I want
need
your
your ID.
identification?
I need your
I'll
identification.
have it on me.
Okay. What's your name?
I don't know.
You don't know your name?
What's the crime I
Go
committed?
ahead and kick your feet in. Kick your feet
Sir,
in.
can I talk to you?
Yep, this is my lieutenant. You can talk to him.
I was walking here.
Talk to my
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right, LT, so I'm sitting here at the stop sign, right? I'm just watching the stop sign as this guy and his wife and kid walk past. I wave as a nice gesture, so he turns around and he flips me off. So I turn around and come back here. I was like, hey, man, what's your problem? He goes, why'd you just, I wave at you and you flip me off. Is there some kind of issue? And his wife has been cooperative, haven't had any issues with his wife or his kid or anything like that. I said, man, what's your issue? And he starts cussing at me. I said, hey, man, you can't cuss like that. You can't act like that. You got people and other kids and stuff walking around here. So he refused to identify himself. I said, hey, you got an ID on you? He goes, I ain't got to identify you. So due to his hostile and turbulent behavior, I put him in handcuffs.
Well, at that point, you have disorderly, don't you?
Right, exactly. So
Not
that's
so
why
much
he's in
with
the
middle finger, but how he responded after you.
Yep, exactly. So that's why he's in the backseat of my car. He's still refusing to identify himself. So.
What a lying dog. I asked you for your ID, you refused to give it? When? I've watched this video half a dozen times. I have yet to see that officer ask him for ID. up until the point he was in the patrol car. And all this yelling and cussing that didn't take place. There was a little bit of cussing, okay, but the guy was not yelling and screaming. That conversation would not have carried more than 50, 60 feet. The officer was actually talking louder than this guy. Okay, what you're seeing here is a contempt of cop arrest. It's going to result in an arrest, as you can probably guess. We'll get to that in a minute. And of course, the lieutenant, like always, this is what happens when the supervisors come. They always want to talk to the officer first. Let me hear what my officer's side of the story is, so that I know you're a liar, and I know I don't have to listen to you or what you say, because my officer's not going to lie to me. But what did we just get? How many lies did that officer just tell to the supervisor? Did you count them? 3, 4, 5? This is what the supervisors are trained to do. Let's go to the officer first. You know, screw the guy that's in handcuffs that shouldn't be there. Screw the guy that's stuck in the back of a patrol car that shouldn't be there. The citizen that's paying his taxes, that pays these public servants' salary. Let's go back to the video.
He refused to identify himself. I said, hey, you got an ID on you? He goes, I ain't got to identify you. So due to his hostile and turbulent behavior, I put him in handcuffs.
Well, at that point, you have disorderly, don't you?
Right, exactly. So
Not
that's
so
why
much
he's in
with
the
middle finger, but how he responded after you.
Yep, exactly. So that's why he's in the backseat of my car. He's still refusing to identify himself. So. Hey, Chief. I'm sitting here at the stop sign, like when you passed me a little bit ago. Gentleman walks past me, and I sit there and I wave at him and his wife as they're walking. They got a kid in a stroller and a dog. Okay. He turns around, and he flips me off.
Oh, nice.
So I flip around, I come back, and I was like, hey man, what's your problem? I said, I wave at you and your wife as a kind gesture, and you flip me off. Is there some kind of problem? And then he starts getting loud and stuff like that. I said, hey, you can't act like that, man. There's other kids and stuff around here. Then he's like, oh, I'll falsify, I'm being harassed, and this guy's gonna arrest me. I said, you're not under arrest, you're being detained. So he starts cussing. I got other kids and families and stuff walking out of the church. I don't know who it is. He's refusing to identify himself. Disorderly conduct? Oh, she's being fine.
Who does she say he is?
She hasn't told me that. I've been dealing with him, so.
All right.
So, disorderly conduct?
Yeah, if he'll identify himself, he won't have to take him out.
Yep.
How many of you are paying attention to how this officer is speaking? You know, there's his body language. Pay attention to his body language. He's doing a lot of this, okay? Fidgeting. Listen to his voice, how he's talking. I mean, he's almost excited. All right? These are the signs of somebody that is lying. And police officers get training on body language and how to interpret body language and speech patterns. And anybody that's been on the job any length of time will learn these things as a matter of not just survival, but being able to do the job well. And everything about this officer's body language and the way he's speaking screams liar. I think any parent will tell you that they can look at this and say liar. And yet this supervisor and the chief of police himself are standing there and don't get it, don't see it. And now we're going to have a chat about community policing. So in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, law enforcement came up with this idea. They called it broken windows policing. Basically what they would do is they would catch people committing very minor offenses and arrest them and put them through the ringer. And the district attorneys and the judges would just give them the maximum sentence. And the idea was if they punished you hard for a minor crime, you wouldn't go on to commit any major crimes. Total failure. Utter failure. broken windows policing is responsible for creating the vast majority of the divide that exists between law enforcement and the citizens and communities. It was a bad idea then, and it's a worse idea now. Community policing is different. Community policing, we get out, police get out and interact with people in the community. Citizens are the biggest force out there. We're everywhere. Police aren't. And so we're a force multiplier for police departments if you have a good relationship. If you don't have a good relationship, nobody's going to call you and give you tips or give you information or report crimes. They're going to deal with it themselves. So community policing is you get out, you interact with the community, and if somebody doesn't like you, because there are people that just hate cops for whatever reason, and some of them are justified. When you run into one of those individuals, why do you want to make it worse? Why do you want to create more divide between that citizen and yourself and the law enforcement community? You don't. It's stupid. You want to build bridges. If that had been me, if I were that officer, I'd have done one of two things. I'd have driven on and just ignored this guy, which is the best thing to do. Or if you just have to go back and talk to him, you go back and say, man, I'm just a guy out here doing a job. I've never had trouble with you before. Have I? Have I ever arrested you or what? I'm just a human. And I'm sorry that you feel this way. But I want you to know that if you ever have trouble, you can call and I will come and I will treat you with respect and dignity that you are due. And you have a nice day. Instead, this guy has fueled the fire. If this citizen didn't like the cops before, I promise you, he really don't like them now. And so the saga continues.
Okay.
I don't want to disrespect him.
Okay, I understand that, man, but here's the thing, okay? Like I said, I waved at you guys. You waved at me, he flipped me off, okay?
What's going to happen if I give him his name? Nothing?
Okay, here's the situation. Let me just explain it to you, okay? So like I wave at you and you and your family, okay? Because I'm just out here trying to, community policing, okay? So when I see you guys, I want to wave at you and acknowledge you, okay? He flips me off, which, he can do whatever he wants. I come around here to make contact with him to say, hey, man, what's your problem? And then all of a sudden, you heard how he started to get loud, right? Okay, I got other families, okay? You can't disturb other families and things like that, because once you start doing that, now it's a disorderly conduct, okay? So either he just identifies himself, I write him a disorderly conduct ticket, and it's done and over with, and he goes on his way, or he refuses to identify himself, I have to take him in at that point.
His name's Kieran Smith.
Kieran Smith? Okay. All right, thank you, man.
Because a police officer.
Chief, it's Kieran Smith.
Is there something wrong? You're not claiming that you waved back.
Potentially. I'll have
I
Levi
was
run him real quick.
attempting
420.
Okay, short version is he comes back clean. He doesn't have any warrants. And they give him a ticket for disorderly conduct and turn him loose. Now, that's not the end of it. Above and beyond the fact that this cop is a pathological liar who is bent upon, satisfying his ego more than he is taking care of business and building bridges with the community. When this video became public, the police department caught a lot of flack on their Facebook page. So like the cowards they are, rather than own it, they took down their Facebook page. And let me tell you why police departments do this. It's all about controlling the narrative. All right? See, you and I see this video, but the core group of supporters in their community aren't going to see it. If it's not on their Facebook, the chances of them seeing it on YouTube are small. So rather than have their core group look at this and say, why did you do that? They take down their Facebook and they delete, Twitter, and take all their social media away to try and keep it quiet, to cover it up. That's what it is. It's all about covering up. So anytime you see a police department that does that, that's what they're doing. They've begun to cover up. So this guy goes to the PD to make a complaint, and let's see what happens.
Can I get the police complaint form?
Your name?
Is that needed?
Get out. Get out of my office.
Are you serious?
I'm just telling you, get out right now. I'm gonna
I
arrest you.
can't ask for a police.
Out.
You just said you're gonna
You
arrest
want me
me.
to grab a hold of you and throw you out?
Thank you, sir. It's on video.
I don't give a crap.
In a public. Yeah, I already got those too. No, arrest me for asking for a police complaint.
Disorderly conduct. Throw me out of here. It's been warned once today already.
All right, sir. Can't walk into my own public building.
Yep. That's what happens when you go ask for a complaint form in a corrupt police department, in one of those blue line organized criminal organizations. No accountability. They don't want anything documented because somebody might request that document. Somebody higher up might see that. Somebody on the city council might get wind of it. Somebody might use it in a civil lawsuit. Who knows? But this department is not a good department. There's a bunch of cowards. That's what they are. They're a bunch of cowards with uniforms and badges that are abusing the citizens in their community that they don't like. And what they're doing is creating the situation that is upsetting them the most. They're feeding the fire. They are escalating the situation instead of de-escalating the situation. And unfortunately, corruption in departments like this doesn't start at the bottom. This isn't the guy on the bottom doing wrong, because if the chief held him accountable, he wouldn't be doing this stuff. And you can believe the chief saw that body camera footage. So the chief knows what happened. And instead of making it right, they are prosecuting this guy based on the lies that this police officer told, and the fact that he embarrassed them by letting this video get published, by making this whole situation that he didn't create. The officer created it. So rather than hold the officer accountable, they want to harass and abuse the citizen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this was informative and useful, and I hope you learned something from it. Y'all be safe, and I'll see you again soon.